we have Shomik on screen.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, great to meet you. And I'm gonna just take myself out of here, so take it away.
Terrific. Thanks so much to the Tech Inclusive folks for having me. I'm a last-minute stand-in. My good friend Alfred Johnson, the CEO of Mobilize America, was scheduled to give this talk about the importance of technology and organizing tools in politics. Unfortunately, a family emergency kept him away, so I am a last-minute stand-in. I'm going to share my screen and walk you through a little bit about what we focus on at Higher Ground Labs and the important role we believe technology plays in organizing 21st century progressive politics in particular. My background is I spent the majority of my career working with Barack Obama. I worked on his first 2008 campaign in the White House with him and on the re-elect, and was astonished by the advantage that Democrats had in technology and digital tools. And in a short period of time, much of that evaporated, in part because we were not investing in these products as standalone entities over time. We were unfortunately sort of subjected to the boom-bust cycles of electoral politics, and that led us to fall behind. And so I have built, with my co-founder's help, a evergreen venture fund that constantly invests in for-profit startups that support Democratic campaigns and causes. And I'm here to walk you through a little bit of our story and the importance of what we do. So I talked about this in the beginning a little bit, but there's this distressing boom-bust cycle in politics. Every 4 years, billion-dollar startups come together, and then after an election, the day after election day in many cases, the campaigns just disappear. The people disappear, the technology by law cannot be transferred out, and we end up sometimes starting from zero the day after an election day, rather than building on what we've done in the past. And in conjunction with this, something truly distressing has happened, which is that American attention has entirely shifted online, but Democrats really had not for some period of time. Every volunteer has a smartphone in their pocket, yet we tend to hand them number 2 pencils and clipboards and ask them to knock on doors. And as you can see from the graph on the right, successful voter contact rates have been plummeting since 2008. When I started in campaigns in 2004, our blended contact rate between phones and doors, canvassing on calling people on phones and knocking on their doors, was around 35% in 2008. Today, that hovers at around 7%. And in conjunction with this, in particular, the young folks, the millennial voters and Gen Z voters have not received any presidential contact in 2016. Fewer than 1 in 5 millennials received any contact from a presidential in 2016. And it's abundantly clear that the tools we use to reach folks, the importance of energizing new coalitions of voters, many of whose voices have not been heard in the process, who are critical to realizing change, have not been contacted because they are not spending time in the places where our traditional organizing apparatus has. And the pandemic, the COVID pandemic in particular, has really rendered in-person organizing impossible for responsible parties. You know, we've registered around 2 million voters in 2016 on site, in person. We had 25 million voter contacts through canvassing efforts and in-person contacting efforts. And about 65% of traditional campaign budgets were raised from in-person fundraising events. So it really sharpened the need to have new technology that can help supplant some of the gaps that we are going to see in this election. And so what Higher Ground Labs has done over the last 3 years has married Silicon Valley investing to democratic politics to build a hub for innovation in political technology. We want to connect the entrepreneurs, the political investors, the operatives, the technologists, activists, progressive causes, and campaign, and be a constant place to reimagine the way we can organize progressive voters and put them into action quickly and effectively. And so over the last 3 years, we've organized ourselves much like Y Combinator. We've batched our startups in cohorts, and we've invested in now 36 startups, all of which are aimed at solving big problems on democratic campaigns and causes. And as you can see from these logos, these companies range from volunteer software management like Mobilize America, to voter data solutions like Ballot Ready, to predictive analytics, to social listening, to online focus groups, to video optimization. There's a whole suite of work that needs to be done on campaigns that range from voter identification to activation to voting itself. And at Higher Ground Labs, our hope is to be able to provide the full suite of solutions through software rather than through services, so that we can lower the cost of running a campaign and cause and bring a more inclusive and diverse set of candidates to the forefront. When running for office is inordinately expensive, you necessarily shrink the group of folks who can run for office, and we think that's incredibly unfair. And one of the things we're most grateful to see is that in 2020, if you think about the four corners of what's happening in this election, the presidential election itself in one corner with the Biden campaign, every congressional race and down ballot race in another corner, from every Senate race to every House race to down ballot races, to voting itself, things like vote by mail and voter registration online, to progressive advocacy groups in another corner. We are grateful to see that our portfolio companies are now playing central roles in all four corners of those importance, which I think speaks to the need and to the hunger for reliable software services that can make campaigns run a little bit better, a little bit cheaper, and a little bit faster. And so there's now a number of ways that you as a lay volunteer or activist can get involved. The first and foremost, and thanks to Alfred Johnson and Alan Kramer for building Mobilize America, is to be able to volunteer in the place where you are most needed, to understand where to go, how to sign up, and to be retained. As simple as it may sound, the Democratic Party did not have a record of everybody who volunteered on every campaign in every state of the country. This was balkanized across Google Sheets and clipboards. And so every presidential election had to go find new volunteers and couldn't start from one standard database. And thanks to Mobilize America, we now have one volunteer software solution for the entire Democratic ecosystem. Over 3.5 million Democratic volunteers are now on that platform, and it's a great way to volunteer. The second way to get involved is, of course, relational organizing, texting and emailing and having conversations with your friends in battleground states. Our company Outvote is now used by the Biden campaign, by Planned Parenthood, by the DSCC and DCCC, the large campaign committees for House and Senate races, and is the best place for you to engage the people who know you best and who trust you most, to have conversations with them about politics. Third, if you want to make an informed choice about the entire ballot, there's a company called Ballot Ready that now can help inform you on where you're registered, where your voting location is, where your polling location is, and tell you about every single candidate and ballot referendum on your ballot. It turns out that a third of Democrats have left the down ballot blank for fear of making a mistake about an unknown candidate. And it's incredibly important to give just fair, accurate information about who is on the ballot, help people make a plan to vote, and do it really well. And so Ballot Ready today services close to 50 million American voters. Fully 14% of the Illinois primary election used Ballot Ready to make the plan to vote. I would encourage you guys to all check that out. And then finally, getting in touch with your elected officials after you win an election is incredibly important. We sometimes are very good at ginning up a lot of energy in a campaign and don't translate that very well into the legislative process, which is of course just as important. And when I think about the importance of diversity and inclusion, the most historic achievements we've made have all been legislative. The Voting Rights Act, the Civil Rights Act, suffrage movement, the ADA, all of these happen through careful legislative movements that requires coordinating the electoral action we have on campaigns and then marching lockstep in a legislative fight. And what New Mode does is help you contact any legislature in the country, state or federal, multi-channel, to bring your voice into the process. One of the things I really want to pay attention to here is the importance of friend-to-friend outreach. This is a study from Analyst Institute that looked at every single mode of political outreach, from digital ads to phone calls to text messages, television ads, mail, canvassing, pledge cards. They looked at the efficacy of all of those and found that a message from a friend outperformed all of those things by a significant statistical difference. And what it tells us is that in low trust environments, which we operate in today, the ability to have friends contact friends is the single best use of all of our time. And so I would encourage you all to check out relational organizing technology, because I think it is the future of how we have to be able to campaign responsibly. I want to take a minute to just tell you a little bit more about Mobilize America, because it was the intended speaker for today. And what they've built is nothing short of astonishing in a short period of time. This is a company started by two founders in the wake of the Trump election. We happened to be their first investor, and we're proud supporters. They, in a short period of time, have become core infrastructure to the Democratic Party, where every single volunteer that is coming through on campaigns, whether it's any Senate race in the country, every House race in the country, the presidential campaign, or any cause organization, is doing it through Mobilize America. They have 3.5 million volunteers in the network. They estimate they have saved between 5 to 10 hours per week per staff member on campaigns, and have had 38% more shifts from the Mobilize network year over year, which is pretty astonishing. And so real kudos to Alfred and Alan. And more importantly, it's a testament to our need to get the talented engineers, designers, and entrepreneurs who may be listening to get involved, to think about building the next generation of political technology, and to hopefully think of Higher Ground Labs as a partner that wants to help you do that. Lastly, we're really focused on a need to improve diversity in technology, and in particular, we are happy to note that our numbers are slightly better than national averages. Almost 50% of our portfolio has female founders and co-founders, and 25% of our portfolio has co-founders that are people of color, but that is nowhere near close to where we want to be. And much of this requires partnering with the smart folks who are listening to this right now and helping you realize that you can jump in with both feet and be a founder and help Democrats with software services for the next generation of technology, which I hope we can do together. So with that, I want to stop screen sharing, and thank you so much for your time. And if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them. But thanks for listening in.
Awesome, thank you. It does look like there may be a couple of questions in the Q&A under Ask a Question down at the bottom of your screen.
First question was, where can should I answer them now? Or?
Yeah,
Okay.
Go for it. You have a couple minutes.
The first question is from Dustin. He said, where can I learn more about legal prohibitions on transferring tech out of campaigns? Dustin, the McCain-Feingold campaign reform laws limited the amount of value that a campaign can receive. And that is the governing law that prevents a campaign from just building really valuable technology and giving it away to another campaign. There is a cap on the amount of value that can be transferred. As a result, you must pay what they deem to be fair market value for anything of value, specifically technology though as well, which is what limits campaigns from just building, the DNC, for example, just building technology and giving it away to other campaigns. I have a question from Lena on, do these products and services work in developing countries? Great question, Lena. Many of them do. The ones that are not dependent on the US voter file in particular are very, very helpful. And it's very much our goal to help organize progressives all over the world and arm them with great technology solutions to help them run their campaigns. People like Steve Bannon had been organizing the right for a long time, and it's really important that progressive activists be able to share notes and compare best practices and even share good technology. There's a question from, sorry. Do we have time for?
Yeah, one more, go for it.
I see, what are you doing to ensure that voter and volunteer information remains secure, from John Nicholas. John, this is an incredibly important question. We are doing a number of things. We've hired now 10 resiliency and security engineers who are doing audits of our best portfolio companies. We have partnerships with groups like HackerOne that are actually actively, we are paying them bounties to hack our best companies to show us where the vulnerabilities are that we must patch. But protecting the PII of both the voters and the volunteers is incredibly important and sensitive work.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for this. It's incredibly important to work right now. I do want to ask, did I mispronounce your name?
It was Shomik, like Shomik.
Shomik. Nice. Okay, apologies for that. Yeah, I really appreciate this presentation and all the work that you do and the work that Mobilize does. And thank you so much.
Great. And just so everyone's clear, I was joking about suing Higher Ground. I'll see you guys. Take care.
Awesome. All right. Thanks.